It started with a click barely audible but enough to pull me out of sleep. A few minutes later, I was staring through my window at a flicker of light and the faint hum of my electric meter spinning like a slot machine. Out on my driveway, a white Tesla was plugged into my outdoor outlet. Not hers, mine. That's how it began. And months later, that same Tesla would burst into flames right where it sat, turning her green dreams into a smoking mess of melted metal and lies. I'm Ethan McMichael, 36 electrical engineer homeowner in Willow Ridge Estates, a place where lawns are manicured, mailboxes match, and the HOA thinks it runs the world. My next-door neighbor, Deborah Hernandez, moved in about 3 weeks before everything went to hell. She was the kind who wore yoga pants and superiority like armor. "We're a green family," she announced at the neighborhood meet and greet like she'd just invented sustainability. I didn't realize green meant draining my power every night without asking. The first night I saw her car plugged into my socket, I assumed it was a mistake. I unplugged it, wrapped the cord neatly, and left it by her driveway. The next morning, she smiled sweetly by the mailbox and said, "Oh, I saw you unplugged my car last night. Was there an issue?" "Yeah, I said you were stealing my power." Her smile stiffened, but she didn't back down. "I thought we were supposed to share community resources. That outlet's practically on the property line." "Practically," I said, "but not legally." She waved it off. "I'll talk to the HOA president. He'll clarify." He did. 2 days later, I got a letter in perfect bureaucratic font telling me to cease interference with community charging arrangements. Apparently, Deborah had spun a story about a neighborhood EV initiative, and the HOA swallowed it whole. I felt my blood boil, but instead of yelling, I installed a small power meter in line with my breaker. Proof over anger. That's my rule. One night of charging showed 12 kilowatt hours gone. That's $63 a week. The moment I saw the numbers, I decided to play smarter. I called Nolan, a buddy of mine who's an engineer too. He came over with coffee and that smirk he gets before doing something borderline genius. "So she's stealing your power every night," he said. "Yup. And the HOA's defending her." "Yup," he nodded. "Then don't stop her, just make it official." The next weekend, I replaced my outlet with a lockable weatherproof box wired to a timer relay I could control from my phone. That night, she plugged in as usual. 1 hour in, I shut it off. Waited 20 minutes, turned it on, then off again. Her Tesla chirped and blinked like a frustrated toddler. From my window, I watched her step out in her bathrobe, glare at the charger, then stomp back inside. A small victory, but I knew it wouldn't last. The next morning, she was on my doorstep. "Your outlet's faulty," she snapped. "It fried my charger." "It's not your outlet," I said evenly. She crossed her arms. "I've already reported you to the HOA for tampering with shared infrastructure." I showed her the meter logs, time-stamped, manufacturer-signed, proof she'd drained power. For the first time, she looked thrown off. Then she tried to smooth it over. "Fine, I'll pay you back. $20 enough." My bill said $63. I just shook my head. We're past that. For a few nights, peace returned until I found my new lockbox smashed open. The relay was gone. She'd ripped it out and rewired the socket herself. That's when I stopped playing nice. I installed a GFCI with a thermal cutoff safe, legal, and perfectly capable of tripping if someone tried to overload it. It worked beautifully. Every time her car pulled too much power, click breaker tripped. By the 8th night, I started sleeping better just hearing that click. Then came the smell. Ozone. Burning plastic. I ran outside and saw her Tesla flickering blue at the charging port. Sparks danced up the side like fireflies gone wrong. I grabbed my extinguisher and ran. The cable hissed and popped before going dark. Deborah was shaking eyes wide. "You did this," she screamed. "You sabotaged my car." I handed her the charred plug. "You built this," I said quietly. "It's on your side of the line." The HOA president showed up. The neighborhood gathered. Even their electrician confirmed it. "That's not code, homemade adapter." Her face went white under the streetlight. I didn't celebrate, but when her insurance denied her claim 2 days later, fault lies with claimant's own installation. I won't lie. I smiled. She stopped speaking to me. For about a week. Then she started again, just not to my face. HOA group chats exploded with her posts about me being anti-progress hostile and electrical terrorist. Neighbors whispered. Some looked at me differently, and for a moment I started to wonder, am I the bad guy here? I hated that thought, but it crept in late at night when the yard was quiet. Maybe I should have ignored it, maybe unplugged everything and walked away. But then I looked at the power logs, the damage she caused, the fines she dodged, and I realized silence wasn't peace. It was surrender. So I fought back with facts. I printed the official fire report, stapled it to a note, and hand-delivered it to every mailbox on our street. For your information, the cause of last week's incident was faulty wiring on private property. Stay safe. No names, no drama, just truth. By noon, her story collapsed. Someone sent me a photo of her pacing her driveway, red-faced, waving papers like she could rewrite reality. That night, she marched across the lawn, barefoot, envelope in hand. "You think you've won?" she hissed. "You humiliated me. I just said, you did that yourself." She threw the envelope at my porch. Inside were photos of me, grainy labeled surveillance evidence. My stomach twisted. She'd been documenting me. The next day, a code enforcement officer showed up, polite but stiff. We received a complaint about unpermitted electrical work. I led him inside and showed him everything, permits, logs, even the GFCI receipts. He left, shaking his head. "You've done everything by the book. She's the one breaking code. It should have ended there." It didn't. 2 days later, I got a cease and desist letter from her lawyer. She was claiming defamation and emotional distress. I sent it to Arya, my lawyer. Arya laughed once and drafted a 1-page response listing every law Deborah had broken. 3 hours later, the lawyer dropped her as a client. Deborah was on her own. For a while, it was quiet again. Then one night I saw the glow of red LEDs on my wall. 4 new cameras, all aimed directly at my windows. I walked over. "Those cameras are facing my property," I said. "That's illegal." "They're for security," she said. "Then point them at your house." Her eyes were bloodshot. "You think you've won, but everyone will see." 2 nights later, my motion sensor went off at 2 a.m. She stood in her driveway, flashlight in one hand and a gas can in the other. I yelled before she could move. Her husband ran out, yanked the can away, dragged her inside while she screamed. That was it. I called the cops. Within 3 days, a restraining order was in place. HOA had no choice but to enforce it. For the first time in months, I slept without checking my cameras every hour. But people like Deborah don't disappear. They reload. A week later, she filed a new HOA Green Initiative proposing a community charging post on my lawn. I showed up at the meeting with Section 8.4.1 of the bylaws highlighted no installations on private property without written consent. The room went dead silent. One board member muttered, "He's right." Her voice cracked. "You care more about red tape than saving the planet." That was the last time she spoke as a committee member. They removed her from every position citing safety violations. Still, she couldn't quit. A month later, she hired electricians to run a new conduit line, and they dug straight across my yard. My mother's rosebush was destroyed. I filed a complaint, and the county inspector came out. Without an easement, he told her this is illegal. She lost it. The deputy had to warn her for tampering with county orders. 2 weeks later, she tried sneaking another line underground, this time into my irrigation control feed. The sprinkler system became my last weapon. I set it to run at 3 a.m., exactly when her Tesla charged. The sprinklers roared water, drenched her driveway, and then pop, breaker-blown sparks flying, total blackout. That was the end. The HOA fined her. Her insurance dropped her. A for sale sign went up. One morning, I watched the tow truck haul her Tesla away, charred and useless. She left behind scorched concrete and 4 dead cameras hanging like ghosts. Weeks later, the new owner, Tom, knocked on my door with a bundle of melted cable. "Found this buried under the garage floor," he said. "Any idea what it was?" I looked at it, the illegal feed she'd buried months ago, still fused in the concrete. "Yeah," I said. "That's the past." He laughed, tossed it in the trash. For the first time, the street felt peaceful again. That night, I sat on my porch listening to the hum of my power meter steady clean and mine. And I realized something simple but sharp. It never starts with chaos. It starts with one small line crossed a shared outlet, a harmless favor, and ends when someone finally says, "Enough."